Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to KHM Today, your weekly resource for industry news. Nope, bi-weekly resource for industry news and straight up fun. I'm your host, Carolyn Orphan. Today is June 18th, 2025. Please let me know that you're here. I'd love to see you in the chat. Um, Gosh, you guys, I'm so happy to be back with you. You can see I'm not in my normal space. I have work being done at my house today. So I moved over. We have a rental home in downtown Littleton. So I moved over here today. I have to say it's kind of nice not having like the house distractions and everyone running up and down the stairs and the dog barking. So it's kind of nice today. But you'll see I kind of have different lighting, a glow. I look super tan. But I'm excited to be here with all of you today. Just a few things about what's been going on. Um, I just came back from Travel Leaders Edge conference in Las Vegas, and I have to be honest, sometimes I wonder about the large conferences and whether or not they're going to hit the mark and if I'm going to take away what I truly need to take away. And I will tell you, this time around and with this particular conference, I really enjoyed it. I loved seeing the KHM agents there. I loved seeing agents and leaders from other host agencies. This industry is very friendly, and yes, there's competition, but there's also not competition. So we get together and we have fun, and we do share best practices, which I think is important. We're all doing things a little differently, and we can all learn from each other. So an amazing week. KHM did win Host Agency of the Year with Travel Leaders Network. And so that was really exciting. We had a wonderful meetup with our agents in the area, hosted by Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Bureau. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, just if you have an opportunity to attend it, look at what the course structure is going to be, what it is you hope to gain from it, and sign up for next year, which is going to be in San Diego. Couple other updates. Bootcamp 2.0, I'm excited to see some agents next week, both in person and virtual. So I'm excited for that. We also have Luxury Symposium, which is in September. It opened yesterday. So if you're looking to join us for that event, sign up soon. And then what else? Oh, Destination Success is, almost 4 weeks away, which is crazy when you think about it. But we're excited to welcome almost 250 agents to Cleveland and over 100 online, along with their incredible supplier partners. This team, the KHM team, has worked so hard to put this all together. It looks different than anything we've ever done before, and I couldn't be more impressed with the level of just professionalism and camaraderie and working together. It really just has been such a labor of love. So I hope those of you that are coming are really going to get so much out of it. But today, I am super excited to have a conversation about support. We started this conversation at Crystal, and I wouldn't even say it started at Crystal. We've always talked about this, but this year we had an actual course set aside, presented by two of our guests today, that talks about how do you support, what are you looking for when it comes to supporting, either your family supporting you, your kids, your significant other, your mom, your dad, whomever, your friends, really understanding what it's like to work in this industry and be available to your clients. So we're going to talk about that today. So please welcome Toni Rath and her husband Aaron and Jim and Judi Drennan. Welcome, you guys.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hey,
Hello.
everybody.
So we should say, Aaron, welcome to the big stage here. This is your first time. You are not an agent with KHM. So welcome. Thanks for taking the time out of your very busy day. I know you guys have a wedding coming up. So to take your time away, you probably will appreciate the distraction. Um, but I'm just so thrilled because I think we can learn a lot from all of you as to how you work your businesses, the conversations that you have with those that are in your circle about your business and about how you run your business. And so, Toni, let's start with you. You are an agent. Um, you presented at Crystal about the importance of that spousal support. So, what is it that you look for from Aaron on a day-to-day business as you work in your business and grow your business?
I think the biggest thing probably is setting the boundaries and helping me set boundaries, whether it be for him, if my door is closed and to not come in. Also to communicate to my kids that I can't be at all places all of the time. And then also reminding me too and helping me talk through my boundaries with my clients and what I need that to look like, depending on if I'm going out of town, not going out of town, watching what they're doing. Is it a trip that I need to do to grow myself, or is it a trip that I probably need to probably not do because it's the timing, or it's just going to be too much? So he helps me kind of look at all those aspects all together.
So, Erin, from your point of view, because those are all really great things, I would imagine finding the right words is important when you're conveying, hey, Toni, do you realize your door has been shut for 14 hours now? Are you coming out? Or, hey, what sort of phrasing do you use so that it doesn't create conflict, right? It creates conversation, but not conflict.
So I kind of start. So first off, Toni supported me for 21 years, so she set the example and showed me the right way to do it. But I think I try to start with the words "I love you," but right, I love you, but
Or how
you've
about I
been
love
doing,
you and?
but I love you, but, and she hates the but statements, but it's about showing one that I love and I respect her as a business person, and and just knowing that sometimes the door is going to be closed for 14 hours, like you said.
Mhm,
So for me, the word that I try and keep in mind is understanding, right? While there are boundaries, I have to understand that sometimes boundaries get pushed a little bit. Sometimes the door is closed for 14 hours, and sometimes I have to knock or just leave the door alone and not.
mhm.
But yeah, it's just about understanding what her expectations for me are and what my expectations for her are.
That's great. Okay, Jim and Judy, you are spouses.
Yes.
Jim, you yes, very good, Carolyn. Very good. You, Jim, started first, and then Judy came into the business. Can you share a little bit of that story?
Sure. I'm actually retired from the software industry, and um, Judy and I got married, and she said, you know, I actually took some time at Starbucks to have health insurance after I got laid off from the software industry. Um, but Judy said, "What would you like to do? You've got insurance. You don't have to uh, just sit around." And I had been a business traveler who went on cruises for fun. That was my escape. And um, she knew somebody who was a KHM agent. Actually, she worked with the husband of a KHM agent, and I and got in contact with her and ended up opening the business. Was doing really really well with it, and then this thing called COVID happened. And Judy worked in financial services and had a Series 7 license, so she couldn't be part of the business
Mhm,
because of all of the overhead involved with
Regulatory things.
regulatory stuff. So when she retired from the financial services business, um, we redid the LLC because it wasn't just me anymore. Um, I took advantage of the fact that she said, I wasn't quite ready to retire. I said, great,
mhm.
let's be a minority owned business. So she's got 51%.
So one of the things was when I finally retired, and one of the reasons was because if I said something to somebody that, hey, if you own 100 shares of stock in Royal Caribbean, you can get onboard credit, that would have been seen as a recommendation from me. And so
Oh,
it could have literally cost me my license just to tell somebody that. So we had to be very, very careful until I was ready to retire. I retired, my mother died the week after. So Jim and I were both kind of, and she lived with us. We had 4 generations in one home. So Jim and I were both kind of taking on this business, overcoming grief and trying to figure out where it went to. It took a lot of, we were talking about today, it actually took a lot of refining and trying to figure out where we wanted to be, because originally I was going to come in and do resorts. And I hate resorts. I'm sorry. I hate resorts. Don't send me to one. They're punishment to me. They really are punishment to me. So trying to sell that was not a good thing. So we ended up back with our own niche, and we ended up refining who does what. And, those 14-hour days, Aaron, those are the days where Jim will say, you haven't eaten. Can I bring you a grilled cheese sandwich? Or he said today, some days support is just as simple as a grilled cheese sandwich or getting hot water for a cup of tea so I can keep going what I'm in the middle of,
Yep.
But boundaries are interesting,
Well,
So we were talking a little bit about that before we went live, and you guys, you work together, but you don't really rely on outside help. When you are on vacation, you're always sort of on. So what does that look like for you, and has it worked for you? Because my theories don't fix what isn't broken, but does that work for you, and do you feel like it's sustainable?
So for us, and this is another thing we're redefining, we had a great year last year, but it was definitely more than we thought our retirement business would ever look like. So as we go back down to being, silver, platinum silver or something like that, it is pretty doable for us, because we're only dealing with cruises. And once we get people on cruises, we have very few emergencies. But the people that are traveling, they know where we are. They know how to get a hold of us. We always have internet. We don't live by the computer, though. We, check it in the morning, check it in the evening. If it's a sea day, we'll check it in the afternoon. But we don't live by it. We have our phones with us. If an emergency happens, we'll deal with it. We also have those times where we divide and conquer. Like I'm going to Alaska on our distinctive voyages in July, and Jim's going to be home managing the home front. So we have those times in between.
Yeah.
somebody's
So
got to
that's
go at soccer.
I'm going to jump right back over to you, Toni, but you saw me making a note because I didn't want to forget this. You just said something really interesting, that you're scaling back. So how do you do that?
Ooh, it's tough for me this year. It's
right? I think it's hard to say no. So how do you plan on scaling back?
So when we started this, Jim was like, if we get $100,000, $200,000 in sales a year, that'll help pay for our trips and, fit into our retirement budget, and that'll be nice. Well, last year we had $750,000 in sales. So that was way more than we had planned on, right? But it's been a combination of things. God has scaled it back for us a bit.
Okay.
We're also doing bigger and larger trips, and we're relying more on referrals, and we're cutting back on the networking. We're cutting back on the advertising, on things like that. We are becoming very choosy about what we do.
Okay. So, Aaron, you have supported, and just because I've talked to you guys, your goal is growth.
Yep.
And perhaps joining one day as well.
Yep.
What does that look like for you right now? And are you still seeing that as a future?
Absolutely. So right now, I think, I'm about 6 years from retirement from my current job. At least that's my goal. If I make it 6 years, I'll be happy. But yeah. So right now, I'm a tech junkie. I have my own YouTube channel that I've started, that I'm slowly working on for travel news, and I have Instagram, and I help Toni with social media stuff and just kind of fill in where she needs to. I work in the aerospace defense industry, so I work with people who have money and vacation dreams, and so I'm probably one of her bigger referrers.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm walking down the hallway and I hear someone say something about a vacation, I always duck in and jump in and point out, hey, you need a travel agent, and I know somebody, right? So I'm Toni's biggest fan right now, and yeah, my goal is eventually to be a partner with her, and I'll do the cruises, and we want to get into group cruising
Mm-hmm.
and setting up group cruises, and so that'll kind of be my niche, and Toni will kind of take everything else. But yeah, our goal is to grow this and be partners, and use it to travel until we can't do it anymore.
So, Toni, what sort of words of advice do you have for people who have kind of the noise around them that might not necessarily be supportive? What words of advice do you have for conversations with those people to say, this is what I need from you right now? I'm trying to grow my business. This is important to me. This is important to others. Even if it's not important to you, what words do you have for people to have these conversations about what this work is really all about?
Well, I think being able to tell, your stories, especially your good stories, the ones where you've helped other clients, and how that was by and far, worth the money or whatever it was for those clients that came to you. There's always something in the news that always pops up. So even if there's a conversation that either you can start, or if they haven't started with you, and you can kind of be on top of that story. Why is it that I don't want Costco? And just explaining to people too that, not every client is your client. And, really kind of just talk through what, kind of what, this is kind of what we did, is we bounced stuff off of each other. And I was like, not every client is my client. I know what I want. I know what my bandwidth is. So knowing what my strengths are and what my weaknesses are, same for him as well. And trying to find some way to relate, if depending on what career field that other person might be in. Say, would you do this in this way? This is why I do what I'm doing.
Mhm.
So really trying to create a connection, taking some small talk from whatever's going on in the news, because we know there's always something in the news you can
Mhm.
always apply something to, as to what you do, why you do something, or why you don't do something, how you can show the differences. How would you do that if you booked it through A versus booking it through me? How do you think that conversation would go in the chance that something comes up? So I think really listening to what those other people are saying, and how you can relate to them, what it is that you're doing, and why, I think is very important to be able to do that, and making that connection, so that way maybe they can better understand what it is, what you do, and why you're doing it, and that it's not just that. Are you still doing that travel thing? Are you still just
Right, right.
really putting some legitimacy to it, and going, I'm a professional. This is what I do. And, you know, even if, do you want to know, hey, how is this? Do you know what it was like before? It's pivoted, it's changed. Everything is so different now than it was 15, 10, 20 years ago. It's so different.
Hmm.
And so trying to talk to that, because I do think that some of the disconnect sometimes can be people just don't travel, take as many trips. Aaron's conversation at work, usually with him, they say, when is your next cruise? They know he's got something booked again. But then too, getting to explain to people, what, just booking that and planning that, even if it is one time a year. And or even just asking questions, when was the last time that you took a trip? What
Hmm.
were some of the things that happened that weren't good? What were some of the things that were great? And then saying, as if I was your travel advisor, this was what I would have done, or this was what I would have, advised to do differently. So I do think you have to be ready to have a conversation, be more curious than being defensive, um,
Mm.
because I feel like there's a lot that can be misconstrued, and that you can miss in a conversation if you don't come curious and asking more questions.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Jim and Judy, as a couple, do you always agree on the events that you should attend and how you should attend them?
We discussed that in, uh, it's a conversation because, as Judy mentioned earlier, she goes to these events and gets pumped up
Yeah.
and comes home
Take on the world.
and it's like, okay, if we're trying not to get to diamond, um, and it's not that we don't want to be successful, it's just since it's just the two of us, we did one associate agent that didn't work out. That doesn't mean we're not going to do that again, but it's a matter of a conversation.
Mhm.
Like we were talking today about luxury. After I find out who's sponsoring and going to be the main presentation, then we'll decide.
It's on then. You can see every single person.
Perfect.
Yeah.
No, and
Yep, and there's
it's
good content there.
and it's a little bit harder because we do look at things differently, right? You know, Jim's a couple years older than I am. We have some health things that have crept into our life over the last year, and we're trying to navigate those and figure out what those look at because they're chronic, they're not going to go away.
Mhm.
So it's a matter now of what does that look like? You know, Jim's going to be 69, I'm going to be 66. It's different than somebody who's in their 40s or their 50s, right? So what does this look like for us? I don't see us walking away from it, but I also don't see us trying to drastically grow it.
Mhm.
And so the conversation we have is this going to help us maintain what we're doing, keep the, you know, the clients that we have, as we have older clients like us who want to do more luxury, or, you know, or the families that we still have that want to take their kids on Royal. How do we tie into all of that and figure that out? So
And
it's always a conversation.
Judy just said something really important, particularly for those of us that are couples. The dynamic that sometimes happens is people want to spend a lot of time convincing each other who's right. And the way that Judy mentioned, she said, hey, she looks at things differently. And the way I describe it is it's like we're looking at a coin. We're both looking at a coin. She sees heads, I see tails.
Mhm.
If I understand her view, then I see 360 degrees of the problem. So we really work hard to understand and to share and discuss those things. Um, there are some things that were, you know, you talked about strengths. Um, there's some things that we know we're each better at.
Mm.
And so while we each handle different suppliers, we also have, you know, there's something about, I have a group of widows that are clients. I don't know what it is, but we sit down
They
over
love this
coffee.
face.
We sit down over coffee and, you know, you want to go on a river cruise? Sure, let's talk about it. They show up with a couple of friends. That I didn't intend for that to be any kind of a niche, but Judy's not going to go unless I'm on my deathbed. So
To the widows?
to the
Oh,
widows.
to the widows.
It's a connection point, right? It's just you just happen to have this connection.
Yep.
He has a great connection with them, and we balance those out. You know, this is your client, this is my client, right? That always is going to happen. You know,
Mhm.
not every client likes me, not every client likes him. So we also find those where the balance is. Some like us both, some want one or the other. So you take care of it that way.
That's interesting. That's like a whole nother show. Well, you guys, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just think this is so interesting, and I love how, you know, I love the idea of scaling to support, and I like the idea of slow growth to eventual retirement and bringing Erin into the business. I just think it's so important that those that surround us understand the customer service level that this industry takes on. And I don't know that everyone, if you're not in that sort of an industry, um, I don't know that you can always relate to why it's important to be on the phone at that exact moment or answer the text or answer the phone call in that exact moment. And that's not to say that it has to happen all the time, but there are those moments where it just has to happen. And if you pick up the phone or you answer that text, it is almost a make or break situation. And customer service wise. And so I think it takes special people around you to be supportive of that. and lift it up instead of tear it down.
Mhm.
And I feel like all of you
And
really
the
inhibit
beauty
the
of it
power.
is we have certain clients, like my phone will ring and I'll say, "Oh, it's Jackie." And she goes, "You better get that."
Right.
And there are other times where it's like it'll be 5:30 in the afternoon and we're trying to wind down and it's like it's so and so. And Judy will be like, "Let it go to voicemail. You can handle it tomorrow."
Right, right,
And that's great. That right there is great support.
right, right.
Just
And
to say you don't have to do that.
that might be good words of advice for anyone.
Yep.
Who do you feel like you have to answer in the moment versus who's just reaching out because it's on their brain? You don't have to answer in the moment.
Yeah.
So to kind of separate your client list like that might be a good activity. But you guys, thank you so much for being here and taking the time out of your very busy days. I look forward to seeing, hopefully, you guys in Cleveland soon for an event. Good luck with the wedding next week.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate
We'll be
you
looking
so
at the
much.
pictures.
Thank you. Yes.
You guys, next week, no, sorry, our next show, not next week, is July 9th. And we're going to welcome Matt Walgren and Ryan Cowden, and we're talking about how selling travel isn't a hobby. So, right? Isn't that a good topic? You can still
Yeah.
be all around the world, right? If you know anything about Matt and Ryan, 90% of their life we see through photos. And so it might look like they're off and about all the time, which they are, but their career and their job still isn't a hobby. So we're going to talk to them about how they manage all of that. So thank you so much for being with us today. Happy selling, everyone, and I'll see you soon.